What up, gang, and welcome to a brand new episode of Second Take Cinema. As always, I am your host, Jamie Evans, joined by Rory Jocelyn.
Hello, everyone.
And today we're not going that far back, we're going to ye old year of 2013 as we give a second take to R.I.P.D. That's right, today we're taking a look at R.I.P.D. and I'm excited to do this because films like this were the whole reason I created Second Take Cinema in the first place. It's a film that I saw once and I remember it being bad, and I know it's generally accepted as being bad amongst popular culture. And I wanted to give it a second chance to see if maybe I was too harsh on it, see if maybe I'd changed my mind. So to fill in the audience, if you don't know, R.I.P.D. is a 2013 movie starring Jeff Bridges and Ryan Reynolds, along with Kevin Bacon, Mary Louise Parker, Stephanie Shostak, and Marissa Miller. I don't know if I'm pronouncing Stephanie Shostak's name right, so I apologise if I'm not. It was directed by Robert Schwentke, who, looking at his other work, he also did Flight Plan, the Jodie Foster thriller, and The Time Traveler's Wife, along with Red, and some films in the Divergent series. And it is based on a comic book from 1999 by Peter M. Lenkov. This movie was made for a budget of between $130 to $154 million, and made only $78.3 million at the box office. So, safe to say, a bit of a box office flop.
Yes.
Yeah. R.I.P.D. received generally negative reviews from critics. On Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an approval rating of only 12%. The site's critical consensus reads, "It has its moments, most of them courtesy of Jeff Bridges' rootin' tootin' performance as an undead Wild West sheriff. But R.I.P.D. is ultimately too dim-witted and formulaic to satisfy." Film critic Roger Moore gave the film 1.5 out of 4 stars, calling it the worst comic book adaptation since Jonah Hex. Have you seen Jonah Hex? Jonah Hex is awful.
No, I haven't.
It's dog shit. Kyle Smith of the New York Post gave the film a 0.5 star out of 4. For a movie that so strenuously rips off Ghostbusters and Men in Black, R.I.P.D. manages to come up with fresh new ways of being absolutely terrible. The plot manages to be fully predictable and freakishly bonkers at the same time, seemingly born of the same kind of brainstorming on LSD session that must have given us Howard the Duck.
Okay.
Pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Rory, had you ever seen this film before?
I thought the answer was no, but as I watched it...
You were like, oh, I did see this and forgot it.
I was like, oh, the Chinese guy, and we'll explain who the Chinese guy is later, but the Chinese guy, James Hong, is the actor. I was like, I've seen him in something. Yeah. I was like, I've seen him in stuff before. I've just gone through his acting history. The only thing I can possibly remember him from his Big Bang Theory, but when I looked him up on photos of him on Big Bang Theory, that's not where I recognise him from. But then there was other things in this.
No substitutions.
Yeah, exactly. There was also other things in this film that suddenly I was like, I know this scene. I know this bit. And so I think I probably have seen it before, but I've just completely forgotten it.
Dull.
It was so like background. The bit I remembered was when James Hong and the fit girl are by the car, and everyone's like,
Marissa Miller.
Yeah, and they're like, oh yeah. I was like, I remember this scene, but there's no way I'd remember this scene if I hadn't seen the film before.
Yeah.
who hadn't seen the film before. So, yeah, I've definitely seen it before. And on that occasion, I found it so forgettable that I didn't remember I'd ever seen the film. What about yourself?
Yeah, I remember seeing this before and thinking it was incredibly bland, boring, and just didn't work. And I wanted to give it a second chance today. Sure. So where do you want to start? Shall we start with the cast?
Yeah.
And the fact that this is, by virtue of being made in 2013, this is a pre-Deadpool Ryan Reynolds.
It is.
And I know I complain. I'm going to be a real hypocrite now.
Yeah.
Because I know I do nothing but complain about post-Deadpool Ryan Reynolds and how he Deadpools all over everything now.
Yep.
But my God, is he a charisma vacuum in this?
Yeah, well, it's also...
Like, I'd rather him be Deadpool if I had to choose.
So, the problem they've got is they cast Ryan Reynolds as the straight man.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is that Ryan Reynolds... I mean, he can be an okay straight man, not necessarily in this, but he's normally best as the funny guy. So if you watch something like The Proposal, which is a romance film with him and...
Sandy B.
Yep. Sandy B is the straight man role, and that works really well. They're both hilarious in their roles because he knows how to kick up the sarcasm and make it work. I also kind of feel that some of that sarcasm is there in this film, but it feels like it's almost like the director has told him to subdue it. Not as much funny from you. You're not the funny guy. That's Jeff Bridges' role. So, yeah, if it is a pre-Deadpool Ryan Reynolds, doesn't quite work. And that's not Ryan Reynolds' fault necessarily. I've seen him in other films where he's not playing a comedy character. There was a horror film that he was in that he was amazing in.
Voices.
Yes. And he's amazing in that. And that's not a comedy film either. You know, he doesn't need to be the comedy role to be a good actor. But for whatever reason in this, he plays this straight man role so straight as to be basically forgettable. And that's very weird for Ryan Reynolds to be forgettable. The other character in this, obviously, as I stated, was played by Jeff Bridges, and he's in a post-True Grit. And I always view that Jeff Bridges has, there is a split in his career.
Yeah.
There was everything before True Grit, and then there's everything after True Grit. Now, I'm in a rare opinion, we'll get to this when we cover it, but True Grit 2010 was a garbage film. And one of the worst things in that True Grit is Jeff Bridges. He is garbage.
Is that when he... So, the last good thing I remember Jeff Bridges in was Iron Man. He's the villain in the first Iron Man.
So, he's in Tron.
And in that, he is playing... Is that after 2008?
No, it wasn't.
So, in that, he is acting like a normal human being.
Yeah.
Everything I've seen, which isn't much, to be fair, but everything I've seen of Jeff Bridges post Iron Man, he's becoming increasingly less intelligible.
Yes.
So in this, he's doing that proper, howdy, partner sort of voice.
Yeah.
Have you seen a film he did just after this, I think, called Seventh Son?
No.
It is one of the worst movies I have ever seen in my entire life. And Jeff Bridges is kind of doing this voice again, but dialed up so high that you can't understand a word he's saying.
So
he needs subtitles.
Yeah, so that is the same problem he has in True Grit. He's doing this accent, which I don't mind this accent. I did find him intelligible in this film, so he's not as bad. But in True Grit, he's doing this whilst mumbling and dialed up to 11.
Right.
So it's very much, and you're like, that's great. That was a key line. What the fuck was it? I don't know what you just said, Jeff.
What role is he in True Grit? Is he the hero, the villain?
He plays the John Wayne role.
So he's like the main guy.
Yeah, he's the main guy. And he sucks in it. And here's the thing. He might be giving a good performance if I could only tell what he was saying. I can't hear him. And it doesn't help as well that I think that film is badly directed. And I know that sounds really harsh. But, I watched that version first. That was my first introduction to True Grit.
Okay.
And then a few days later, I watched the original. The original is, I'm going to use one of your quotes, orders of magnitude better as a film. Because A, you can understand what people are saying. B, it has more heart. And C, it actually has an ending. There is no ending to True Grit.
To the remake?
Yeah. It has no ending.
Ends.
It just literally, honestly, it gets to a point where the girl is shot. He's riding away with her on the horse. Rides the horse so hard it collapses and dies from exhaustion. He then drags the girl's body, cut to black. And then it fades in, and she's at this tent going, I heard you had information on where Rooster Cockburn was. And this guy's like, no, we haven't seen them for years. And then you get this voice of her, I never saw him again. I tried to find him, but I thought he'd died. Cut to credits.
He was a ghost.
That was literally it. I'm not even exaggerating how short that ending is. It's garbage ending. And yet, everyone was like, this is the greatest film of all time. The Coen brothers are doing it again. It's incredible. And I'm like, did we watch the same film? Like, what are you doing? There's no colour in this film. It's black and white and beige as crap.
Yeah.
There is no... You can't understand the lead actor at all, and it doesn't have an ending. Like, how is this one of the greatest remakes of a Western of all fucking time?
Yeah.
It doesn't compare to 3:10 to Yuma. Let's put it that way. The one with Christian Bale and Russell Crowe. Yeah. That's a brilliant remake of a Western.
Right.
If you're going to go for that shit, that's where I'd go. But True Grit, the remake, can't stand it. I honestly, we're going to have to watch it again for this, just so I can complain about it more on that.
Right.
But yeah, sorry. So this is the problem we've got with our two main characters is Ryan Reynolds trying to play the straight guy in a charisma vacuum, and Jeff Bridges doing at least a more intelligible version of his terrible True Grit character.
Yeah.
And I will give the script this. At the very least, the characters are well written enough that you can define which is which by dialogue. You know, you can always tell if you can swap dialogue between characters and it doesn't matter, then your dialogue isn't very well written, or it's not at least personably written. You couldn't do that with these characters. Their lines must go with these characters, otherwise it doesn't make sense. But yeah, there is a bit of a drop with the actors in this. Everyone else is fine. Kevin Bacon plays his role just fine.
Yeah, I love Kevin Bacon, but my God, this is like standard Kevin Bacon role number one.
Yeah.
Like, he is certainly in the latter half of his career where he's gone into playing villains more.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing fresh here.
No.
This is exactly the same as his role in Super. Same as his role in, loads of things.
Everyone's walking this film. They're not...
They're sleepwalking.
Yeah, they're sleepwalking it. They're just like, I've got a mode. Yeah. Okay, I'm straight guy. I'll just play straight guy. I'm old cowboy. I'll just be old cowboy. I'm villain. I'll just be villain.
The film is trying very hard to be Men in Black.
Yeah.
And...
failing.
It's failing because that central dynamic between Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones isn't there between Ryan Reynolds and Jeff Bridges.
It doesn't feel as defined enough, or like that's element of it. The characters are defined enough, but like as Ryan Reynolds' character states, like he's getting called basically boy and Rook, isn't he? He's getting called Rookie or Rook as he calls him because he's the new boy in the department. He's like, I've got 15 years experience. It's not quite the same as when you've got like, I know it's meant to be like but it's monsters. But at the same time, it's like, it doesn't work the same as realize, because number one, that's like, of course I'd never have known that this was happening in the real world when I was alive, because I couldn't see it. But like with aliens, it's like that revelation, there are aliens everywhere and they walk amongst us. That is a huge revelation that would shock your worldview, even if you were a well-worn cop. You'd be like, oh, hang on, what? Some of the people I've arrested are aliens? Like, what the fuck? So certain elements where it tries to parody other films doesn't work either. And it just seems to have basically cast its actors via cookie cutter.
Yeah, the whole film feels kind of soulless.
Yeah. Ironically.
I know. There's not a lot of creativity to be had here. No. The monsters all look shit.
Yeah, they do.
They're all CGI for starters.
Yep, that's always a bad way to go.
But
the CGI isn't held up. It's 2013 and the CGI...
It didn't even look good in 2013, mate, trust me.
Well, the other problem they've got is because of the nature of the film And this makes it look even more like a sleepwalk film. All of the action pieces. Now, I understand, like, if you're going to introduce souls becoming monsters as they get corrupted, things like that, you're going to need a certain amount of CGI at this point. Okay, fine. But because of the way it's written and because of the way they've done it, every single action piece is full on CGI, which means none of it has any
bouncing.
Impact. Yeah,
like the amount. I mean, fucking Ryan Reynolds gets a whole car dropped on him at one point. He falls down a fucking building, and literally just bounces like a rubber ball.
Yep.
So, what stakes am I supposed to be believing in?
Yeah, like at what point could they fail?
Yeah,
it's like if they can't die anymore because they're already dead. And so they can literally fall from a skyscraper and like have Jeff Bridges land on Ryan Reynolds at full impact into the ground. Ugh. Then they just walk up and go, "Oh, well, I'm pissed because you sat on me when you." It's like, well, what's the fail dial on this? You know, there's no way for them to go, "Oh my god, they could lose, they could die here." Like, what's the stake?
The sense of humour's just not there either. Like, there's the odd joke that's funny. I find the one I find funny is Jeff Bridges' character being attracted to ankles.
Yes.
That's funny because it's a callback to the fact that he's from a different time.
Yeah, from like 200 years earlier or something. Yeah,
and at the end, because him and Mary Louise Parker have a history together, don't they?
Yeah.
And at the end, when she wears the boots, and he's like, God damn, she covered up those ankles with them boots. And most men nowadays would love those thigh-high boots and be like, ooh, that's so hot. But he's just mad she's covered the ankles up.
Yeah.
The joke that doesn't work is, I got skull-fucked by a coyote.
Yeah.
That don't work.
Yeah. Both eyeballs.
Yeah, I hope they did both eyeballs.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck you horrible little man.
Yeah. That's not...
You're supposed to be our hero, Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, and normally that sort of... that feels to me like a line that was in the script that Ryan Reynolds could have come up with a better version of and either couldn't be asked or was explicitly told by the director not to. Because I'm
like... he couldn't improv.
Yeah, because I'm like, Ryan Reynolds has done better than this just on chat shows. And yet, this is the best line he's got in this film. I find that hard to believe. Because even before this, like, the proposal was 2009, 4 years before this. And he's clearly improving all over the place in that film. And I honestly love the proposal. It's genius. And he's one of the biggest reasons. His wit carries a lot of that film. And then 4 years later, it's missing. I can only imagine that that's the director.
Saving it all for Deadpool.
Yeah, well, maybe he was. But that wasn't until another, 3 years?
2016, that was,
3 years later, yeah.
Yeah, although they did shoot the test footage probably around now.
Yeah, maybe.
Because obviously Deadpool had a very long production time.
I wonder if then maybe he took this role on just to get the money to fund that.
Maybe.
Because he's always been... He's not just an actor who was hired into Deadpool, is he?
No, he's always been behind getting it made.
Yeah, he's been mega invested.
Yeah. It's... I feel like this is going to be a really short episode. Because there's actually so little to talk about with this movie.
I've got a few other things I do want to talk about, so don't worry. Keep going.
Saving it for the end, I want to talk about how this film actually could have been better.
Sure.
But I want to save that for the end.
Okay.
Let's talk a bit more about the creature design, actually, because, like, it really is... Oh, here's a little fun fact. You know the fat guy?
Yeah.
The fat ghost?
Yeah.
You know that's the older brother from Home Alone?
Oh, God.
What's his name? Buzz.
Yeah.
That's Devin Ratray, yeah.
Oh, dear.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the monsters, it is just like, okay, fat guy gets bigger and fatter. Yeah. Kevin Bacon gets a little bit taller and gets black lines on his face.
And he gets a crack on his head.
Where he would have been shot, yeah.
But this is where that didn't work as well, because the whole point of it was that sometimes souls, when people die... They decide, rather than staying in heaven or hell, or if they're probably due to go to hell, rather than stay in that hell, they run away. They manage to escape purgatory back to the real world, and then they decide to live out forever, I suppose, or however long they can, in the real world. And because they just can't let go of something. And while they're there, their souls they obviously start off looking relatively normal, but they get more and more corrupted the more they're there, because obviously they're not supposed to be there. Now, if that corruption was in some way connected to what they were staying on Earth for, so like if you had a heartbreak and you're like, I can't bear to leave my wife, and you return back to Earth and run away from whether heaven or hell, whatever was waiting for you, and you decide to live out, she doesn't recognize you, so you just end up living there, but with this broken heart. If that somehow affected your monster design, that would be cool. But it doesn't. It's just generic. Like the only sort of relevant bit you get is the first guy they go for. The first one,
where they hint that that's what they're doing, isn't it?
Yeah, because he goes, oh, here comes the big jaw, and he get like his mouth drops open like it's broken, and he goes, well, it's because the guy was a tattletale in real life. And it's like, oh, okay, so the monster designs are going to be this shut, yeah. But then it's just fat guy got fatter. And you're like, so did he come back so he could eat? Like, what was... Because we know that doesn't work anyway, because Ryan Reynolds eats something and goes, there's no flavour to this. Of course there's no flavour, you're dead. And it's like, then why do you eat? Oh, it just feels good in my mouth. And it's like, then what's the fat guy coming back to eat for if there's no flavour? Like, the monster... I have no idea what the cracked face and cranium of Kevin Bacon's character...
Well, I get what the cranium is, because that's how he died. Bullet wound to the head. That's what that is. But I don't... Yeah, the black lines and stuff, that's obviously just them being like, what does corruption look like? Yeah. Badly CGI. Why is it CGI at all?
Yeah, they could have done that in makeup.
It 100% should have been makeup. Yeah. 100%.
It seemed to be like laziness in filming, and then the post-production guys had to fix it in post. Yeah. Everything had to be fixed in post. And it's just such a shame, because it was like, you had a chance there. And that's something else I want to talk about. Because there is something in this film that... There were flashes in this film where I was like, oh, this is starting to reach an emotional spot. And then it would quickly run away from the emotion. Because we're talking about the souls of people who've died and can't let go of reality. There is such a depth and a wealth of plot you could get from that. Even in a trashy action movie, you could sink there even a little bit to discuss, why someone would choose to not go to heaven. Like, someone could go there and go, right, you're going to heaven, but my wife's back home. She's not in heaven. Or, and certainly those who right, you're going to hell. Well, I'm not going to fucking hell. I'd rather corrupt and die on earth as a rotting soul. There's so much they could have gone into, so many questions they could have asked, so much emotional story they could have gone through. But even the very mild bit, like when he goes to his funeral, when Ryan Reynolds goes to his funeral and sees his wife there, all of that is covered in, and it's flavour of word of the month, bathos, when Jeff Bridges is just shitting all over, going, yep, you have time for yourself. Yep, don't worry, I'll just be standing here. It's just like, would you shut up? That was kind of funny, but at the same time, it's like, no, this should be your emotional bit. This is meant to be my hook into why I should care about this lead character and why I should want to be with him on his journey. And Jeff Bridges is just shitting all over that scene. Yeah. And it's not his fault, that's the script, but that's the fault of the writer. Why are you having this guy shit all over your emotional hook? And this happens a lot. There is, it got to the point where it's like, come on, guys, you had, like, I will say this about R.I.P.D. The concept, I think, is brilliant.
Yeah, this is what I want to talk about at the end.
Yeah.
The concept, they've wasted this concept.
Yeah.
And this should be a very hard concept to get wrong.
Yeah.
But they somehow managed
They managed to hit every single wrong mark. It should have been...
so the basic...
Sorry, I was just going to say... no, I'll come to it in the end, because you want to say you want to do the rewrites at the end.
So basically, what the plot is, just to sum it up for anyone, Ryan Reynolds is a cop, Kevin Bacon's a cop, and they're dirty cops. We know they've taken some gold from a crime scene, and the gold is worth a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Then Ryan Reynolds buries his gold under an orange tree in his back garden.
Yep.
They go on a call that he tells Kevin Bacon he wants to hand his gold in and get out of it.
Yeah, because his wife has basically said she doesn't really care about money. She just wants more time with him. And he's like, you know what, she's right. I'm the one who's obsessed with money.
Yeah, I'm the one who's put that pressure on myself.
Yeah, so he wants to get rid of the gold, get rid of the money, so that he can just, even if it's more menial, quote unquote, in terms of finances, it's a happier existence with his wife.
Yeah. Tells Kevin Bacon he's out. They go off to another job where there's like a big gang fight happening. And in the confusion, Kevin Bacon takes the opportunity to shoot him and kill him. Now, this already doesn't make any sense, because at this point we think, Kevin Bacon's just greedy, he wants the money, and the reason he's killing Ryan Reynolds is he can't risk him exposing him. We then find out right near the end, because this film clearly had no idea where it was going and had to pull a third act twist. The gold is not just gold. It's not just valuable gold. They're actually building an artifact that will basically open the gates of hell and allow all of the dead to repopulate the earth.
Yeah, and Kevin Bacon is actually a dead guy.
Yeah, he's the ringleader behind this plan.
Yeah.
And it's very much like, well, what? Why didn't you just... Why kill Ryan Reynolds?
You know he's only coming back for you in the afterlife.
Well, yeah, that...
He obviously knows the R.I.P.D. exists, because he mentions it.
Yeah, there's that as well, but there's also just like... You're a fucking ghost, Kevin Bacon. Wait for Ryan Reynolds to have gone to sleep or whatever. Go out and just steal the gold from under his orange tree.
Yeah.
It's buried in his garden.
Yeah. Or just steal it from the lockup. Because Ryan Reynolds goes, I'm going to put mine in the lockup. I don't care what you do with yours. You can keep yours if you want, just I don't want any part of it. So he could let Ryan Reynolds hand it into the lockup, and then he steals it from the lockup. Instead, he kills Ryan Reynolds and creates his own nemesis, which would normally be hubris, but it's not played that way in the story. It's just, I'll kill him and that gets rid of the problem. And then later on, he's part of the R.I.P.D. Oh, so you know what that is then? So you know he could come back that way. It's nonsensical.
So the introduction to the R.I.P.D., which is probably the bit where the film most feels like it's imitating Men in Black.
Very clearly Men in Black influenced.
Ryan Reynolds dies and he wakes up in a white room with a bunch of decorations on the wall and a desk, and Mary Louise Parker sitting opposite him.
Yep.
Now, for those who don't know, Mary Louise Parker is a great actress. She was in Red or Red 2, I forget which one. I know her more for being in Weeds, the TV series Weeds, if you know that. Weeds is a good show that ends so badly.
Right.
Because it went too long. It went 8 fucking seasons, and it did not need to go 8 seasons. So here's what's really interesting about Weeds. It's basically Breaking Bad before Breaking Bad in a way. And it's not. Breaking Bad is its own thing and Breaking Bad is better. But Vince Gilligan, the creator of Breaking Bad, literally said in an interview he'd never heard of Weeds. And people told him about it afterwards. And he said he's so glad he didn't know about it, because he would never have created Breaking Bad if he'd have known. Because the core idea is similar enough.
Yeah, because she's growing weed, isn't she?
Yeah. So basically, she's a middle-aged soccer mom who her husband drops dead of a heart attack completely unexpected at a fairly young age, like he's only 40 or something.
Right.
And suddenly she's left, no work experience because she's been a housewife for 18 years.
Yeah.
With her 2 kids living in this gated community. So that's another way in which it's very different from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Because Walter's always shown to be barely above the poverty line.
Yeah.
Whereas
She's
in a way
wealthy.
it's a lot less honourable, which sounds weird because obviously Walter White turns into an evil motherfucker.
Yeah.
But Walter White starts with honourable intentions where he wants to be able to leave his family something, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Whereas Nancy, the character from Weeds, basically just wants to keep her rich lifestyle.
Yeah, see your point.
So she starts dealing weed.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is the first 3 seasons are the best, which are all set in this gated community. And then at the end of that season, they leave the gated community, and every season after that moves around, which is really weird. And then in the final season, and I suppose they couldn't help this because it's just the way law changed in America.
Yeah.
Weed got legalized, didn't it?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, the whole show's reason for drama gets invalidated because who cares if she gets caught now?
Yeah, because she's not committing a crime.
Yeah, it went too long.
Yeah.
Breaking Bad has that benefit of Breaking Bad ends at exactly the right point.
Also, it chooses meth, which is not likely to get legalized anytime soon.
Yeah, that's because with Weeds, I think they didn't want her to. I mean, the point of the show was not for her to become Walter White.
Yeah.
Whereas Breaking Bad,
Walter
the whole
White,
point is
he
to
was
become
always
a
going to
villain.
degenerate, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, there's some great. We'll come off of Breaking Bad in a minute and go
Yeah.
back to R.I.P.D. But there's a lot of really interesting studies on Breaking Bad where you can see that Walter's ultimate fate is basically a foregone conclusion right from the start of the show.
I think it was always meant to be that way as well, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it's brilliant.
There's loads of foreshadowing, like literally in the pilot.
Yeah.
Where you can see that Walter is not going to handle being a drug lord very well, and that it's going to all go to his head, and because I mean that you get all the stuff about how he quit that first company he had, out of pride.
Yeah, and he gets offered a job, doesn't he, by the rich people that ran it, and they're like, "Oh, we'll get you," and he's like, "No, I've got my pride." Yeah. It's like, dude, you need money.
And I always remember the bit. I know this is probably just me being sick, but the bit I always remember from the pilot of Breaking Bad, I'm sure this is the pilot, is early in the episode, Skylar tries to fuck him.
Yeah.
And he can't get it up. And then he goes out and becomes Heisenberg, essentially, for the first time. And comes home and basically rapes her.
She kind of is into it, but he does push himself onto her.
Yeah. And she's like surprised because he's like harder than he's ever been, sort of thing. And straight away, as soon as you see that, you're like, oh shit. Yeah. This dude's turned on by being bad.
Bad boy.
Like it's going to go to his head, sort of thing.
Like the bad boy.
Shame there's none of that character development in R.I.P.D, innit?
Yeah, so R.I.P.D doesn't have a Walter White. It doesn't have anyone who develops in character. The closest, I suppose, because Jeff Bridges' character doesn't change. Neither does the... what's her name from Weeds?
Mary Louise Parker.
That's it.
Plays Proctor.
Yeah, Proctor, that's it. Proctor doesn't change. Oh, Mary Louise Parker. And Ryan Reynolds' character changes a smidge, but he doesn't... Like, basically, most of his change takes place before he dies. And then when he dies, he just wants to ensure that the monsters won't ruin the world for his wife. And then there's no real arc, because he obviously wants to go back to her, but there isn't like a big arc.
No.
Where it's like they need to convince him not to try.
Yeah. His arc is accepting that he can't go back, but it's very ill-defined and not explored very well. Yeah. It just, when the plot needs him to get over it, he gets over it.
Yep, and his wife doesn't really have an arc.
No, she's barely in the film, to be fair. And even Kevin Bacon.
He doesn't have an arc at all.
Why is he evil?
Yeah.
And here's the weird thing.
This is the other thing as well. Any soul that wants to escape judgment and stay on Earth is auto-evil. And I'm like, but why? Like, explore that theme.
Well, to be fair, they do show that there's one who isn't, because there's the one that... Jeff Bridges has as an informant, isn't there? And all he wants to do with his extended afterlife is hang around and watch baseball games.
Isn't that the guy who gives the gold to Kevin Bacon in the end, though? Isn't he? He's in the red tracksuit.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so he is a bad guy.
I'm going to be real honest with you, Rory. I fell asleep for part of this movie.
Oh, no, Jamie.
I was having a diabetic sugar crash.
Right.
And,
well, I was playing Operation Raccoon City while watching this film, and I didn't miss anything.
I fell asleep for, I think, 20 minutes in the middle.
Yeah.
And feel like I didn't miss anything important.
Sure. Well, that's the important bit you missed, was one of your hero characters is not a hero. He's a villain.
So, here's the thing that didn't add up with Kevin Bacon for me. So, here's one bit that's cool. So they establish, don't they, that one of the ways that the Deados can hide the corruption is wearing St. Christopher medals.
No, that's his charm. They just need...
Or they have a charm.
Yeah. A charm, and his charm happens to be the St. Christopher.
Right. By the way, it's really weird that the thing that makes them go monster mode is fucking Indian food.
It's never explained. It's just sort
of... a little racist, isn't it?
Yeah, everyone's like, don't know why. And it's just like, yeah, just eating Indian food going, oh... So
damn Indian food turned you into a monster.
Yeah, Indian food.
Tikka masala.
And you're like, are we going to have any payoff to this joke? No, we're just being racist. All right.
Chicken korma.
I mean, here's the... I don't like Indian food.
I love Indian food.
Yeah, it's really not for me. But I wouldn't write a film where I'm like, damn Indian food. Yeah. It's like, what are you doing?
So there's a bit that's potentially cool, which is when they work out that Kevin Bacon is a deado.
Yep.
And they make him take the Christopher medal off.
Yeah.
All that built-up corruption that's been suppressed comes out, and the whole house he's in fucking collapses, basically.
Yeah.
Now, this is all very cool and very good, except in the very next scene, when he's in the car being taken to the R.I.P.D, he reveals to Ryan Reynolds that he really hasn't been dead that long. That he literally says to him, oh, you remember I went on that, I think he says like a few months ago I went out on that job and no one could believe that I survived the shootout.
Yeah.
Guess what, I didn't. But all that corruption that is saved up...
is only from a few months or a couple of years.
Because obviously I get he's the big bad. But also the whole... you're telling me this man died and for thousands of years there's been deados wandering the earth.
Yep.
This man dies, and all of a sudden his main goal is to bring is to literally end the world.
Yeah.
Is the apocalypse. Man, that guy went from 0 to 60.
Yeah, very
fast.
Quickly, yeah.
Like, what the fuck, Kevin Bacon?
Yeah, well, no, I'd love to just go up to Kevin Bacon and go, what the fuck, Kevin Bacon?
I'd love if his plan was just to force EE coverage on everyone.
That would be funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't understand why...
Are there any saving graces we can think of?
Well, I mean, conceptually, there's a lot of saving graces.
Yeah, we're going to get on to the concept in a minute.
But the film doesn't really have... like, the only real thing that I can say positive about the film as presented... is that the characters are well defined, as I said earlier, they're written so that they are very clearly defined as which character is which. And there are some good in-jokes in there, certainly around Jeff Bridges' character and his, actual age of being several hundred years old. Things like the ankle jokes and, the ways he talks about... the way he talks about things in a Wild Westy sort of sense.
Yeah.
That's all quite cool. So that stuff's cool. I'll give that as a positive. What about you?
I had one and I've just forgot it again.
Because it's so bland.
Because it wasn't good. Man, this really is just one of them films where everything about the execution of it is wrong.
Yeah.
Every single decision made on this film is the wrong decision.
Yep.
The casting is wrong. The score's crap.
I think Jeff Bridges was a good choice for his role.
Yeah.
Because he plays the old cowboy role well enough, I suppose. Ryan Reynolds should have been a comedy character, though. In fact, I would have stand Ryan Reynolds more as the villain for this. Would have made the villain a lot more interesting if they'd let him riff
Been more
as
of a
the villain.
surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin Bridges as the villain.
Bacon.
What did I say? Kevin Bridges.
Bridges.
That's the other.
And
Bridges.
then I almost said Kevin Spacey.
Kevin Bridges is the one from. Was Kevin Bridges the one on? Oh fuck, my brain's going. I'm rubbish at this now, Jamie.
Are you thinking about the VGMP film?
Yeah.
No, you're thinking of Beau Bridges, Jeff Bridges' brother. There is no Kevin Bridges.
Is there no Kevin Bridges? I'm sure there's a Kevin Bridges.
Not that I know of.
I've heard of a Kevin Bridges.
I mean, I imagine there is a Kevin Bridges somewhere on Earth, but I don't think he's related to Beau Bridges or Jeff Bridges.
No, there is a Kevin Bridges. He's that Scottish comedian. It's
a bit different.
Not quite related. I'm sure somewhere down the line the Bridges are related. The Bridges meet. But there's...
the Bridges of Madison County. Okay, so let's talk about the film as a whole.
It is a whole.
Because here's the thing. Conceptually, you shouldn't be able to get this wrong. Oh, I was going to say it's cool that they use VCR shops.
Yes, that was cool.
And when he's like, doesn't anyone notice when's the last time you got a VCR repaired? That was funny.
Yep.
I'm about to slag off modern filmmaking.
Okay. I'm all for that.
I'm going to be an old man.
Go on.
But not super old, so I'm actually going to talk about films from before I was born. Right. This concept is fantastic. Dead people are secretly walking the earth. When they pop, aka they turn into monsters and can damage people. Dead cops get forced into this purgatory of working for the Rest in Peace department. One modern day dead cop teamed with a Wild West sheriff. How do you not sell that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ghost cops. Your film is literally ghost cops.
Yep.
That's cool as shit. What ruins this is, one, how sarky it's trying to be, but it's not working. Two, it's trying to take itself way too seriously. Three,
well, it's taking its
CGI.
action too seriously.
Three, CGI everywhere.
Yeah.
Do you know how you make this better?
Practical effects.
You make it in the 80s.
Yep.
Directed by John Carpenter.
Okay.
Starring Emilio Estevez as Ryan Reynolds.
Okay. As Ryan Reynolds.
Paired with Kurt Russell as Jeff Bridges.
Oh.
Yeah. Or Sam Elliott, if you prefer.
Yeah.
And if you don't want Emilio, if you want someone older, how about Crazy Swayze?
Yeah, Crazy Swayze would work. Who would you have? No, maybe Crazy Swayze should actually play the villain.
Crazy Swayze could be the villain if you want.
Yep.
To be honest, you could have young Kevin Spacey as Kevin Bacon as the villain, fresh off of Footloose.
Yes.
And most importantly, yes, all of the monsters should be practical effects.
Yep.
Practical latex and CGI. Get fucking Tom Savini up on this bitch. Or fucking Greg Nicotero. Like, you know, one of the greats of movie monster makeup.
Yep.
Make the city... Give the city some fucking personality.
Oh, it's such a bland fucking location, yeah.
Yeah. Give me... This is why I want John Carpenter. Give me a punky... dark city where half the windows are fucking smashed. There's like neon signs that provide illumination. Give me New York from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 1990.
Yes.
Like, do you know what I mean?
Something where you get the smoke coming out the sewers and shit.
Yeah, something with personality.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Fucking John Carpenter in the director's chair. Or if you want to go... John Carpenter, if you want it to have a bit more of an edge, a bit more of a serious edge. If you'd rather go with a more action-oriented light edge, Sam Raimi.
Yep. You know what?
Put Bruce Campbell as the fucking villain.
You know what? Tim Burton wouldn't make a bad version for this.
Tim Burton wouldn't. It would be very different.
It'd be quite different.
It'd be very different, but Tim Burton wouldn't make a bad version of this, you're right.
Yeah.
Especially not 80s Tim Burton.
Yeah. I'm talking about retro Burton, not modern Burton.
But yeah.
Not Barry Burton.
Yeah. But imagine that. Emilio Estevez and Kurt Russell.
Yeah, that's a strong lineup.
Yeah.
And here's
the thing is, do you know what the funny thing was? I didn't even have to... I haven't had to work on that at all. As I was watching the film... It literally popped in my head.
Yeah.
This should be John Carpenter and them two actors, a darkly lit city with Tom Savini makeup effects.
Yeah. And that would be a much better movie straight away.
Yeah. I don't need the bit where they jump out the fucking building.
No.
And stuff, and he parodies fucking Doctor Strange.
Yeah, going, yeehaw, riding his friend.
Yeah, he's dick up your ass. Is that why he's so happy?
Yeah, it's just so weird. The other thing, and you're right, the one thing this lacks is personality. Like the actual visuals, the city. None of this pops in a way you're like, oh, that looks great. Yeah. Like it's full of CGI. The city is generic and boring. Yeah. The relationships are mundane. The closest we get is a bit of fun with Jeff Bridges' character being Wild Westy. Yeah. And that's it. It's like you've got... And there's no depth. I feel like if you'd given it to John Carpenter, there would have been a lot more depth about why souls would come back.
Yeah. The violence would be much more brutal as well.
Yeah, and that would work because there is, like, none of the violence hits with any impact in this film.
Even when they shoot the deados, they just disappear into a cloud
just
of
like,
vapor.
Oh, great.
And you're like, oh, cool, I totally felt that impact, bro.
Yeah. I kind of feel that they took that sort of exploding into smoke thing, like from things like Blade and like other films that like vampire films. The series with that followed Blade.
Oh,
Series of films that had your favorite actress in it.
Underworld.
There was that whole when you kill vampires, they into smoke.
But even then, that felt like it had a weight to it.
Yeah, there's no weight to any of the impacts in this, including the deaths of the Deados. So there's no pathos, there's no depth, there's no impact, there's no stakes, and it's bland. There's nothing. You're not going to watch it and go visually, wow, this blew my mind, at least visually. It doesn't. It needs that 80s grit, and it needs a director that understands that, that understands depth and meaning. I'm just going to have a look and see who was the director again on this one.
Peter Schrenke or something Schrenke. He's also done Flight Plan, Time Traveler's Wife, and 2 of the Divergent movies.
Robert Schwenke, yeah.
Robert Schwenke.
Yeah, Red was fun. It also has a similar issue with CGI, but it's not as bad. That was 3 years before this. Like, he did The Captain. Is that the one with... Is The Captain the one with... What's his name?
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks, yeah.
No, that's Captain Phillips or something like that.
Right. So he's done a few action films before this. He's mostly known as a writer, ironically, but he didn't write on this. Did an episode of Lie to Me, which was a series that I quite liked. That starred Tim Roth.
Was quite good. Is it Tim Roth? Yeah.
Yeah. It starts to fall apart later on because it's a series that got stuck because it was made from 2009 to 2011, so just before the Breaking Bad thing hit off strong, and what ended up happening was they were like, well, we're going to try and keep it serialized, but there were some elements that really kind of were better. No, sorry, they wanted to keep it episodic. But there was elements of it that were serialized that needed to progress. By the time we got to season 3, it was one of those shows where the bits that should have progressed, it really noticed when they didn't. There's a lot of shows which are episodic, like Star Trek and things like that, where like early Star Trek anyway, where you're like, okay, I don't really care that this person would naturally have progressed by now. It's fine. I'm happy for them to be where they are. The way that Lie to Me felt, it was in the wrong era, and it was written in such a way that it really stood out, that the people hadn't progressed the way they should have. But the first season, at the very least, if not the first 2 seasons, is very good. But yeah, just... I'm going to have a look at the writers as well. Phil Hay, Matt Manfredi, and others. So it looks like he had quite a long writing cast.
Yeah.
So screenplay was by Phil Hay and Matt Manfredi. The story was by David Dobkin, and then it was based on a comic book created by Peter M. Lenkov and Lucas Marangon. So I'm going to have a look at Phil Hay. What else has he written? So he looks like he mostly writes... Oh, he wrote Ride Along 2. And Ride Along... Clash of the Titans.
Oh, boy.
Aeon Flux, The Tuxedo. Yeah, okay. And then Matt Manfredi, what has he written? A lot of the same stuff.
Oh, do they write together?
It looks like, yeah, the Tuxedo, Aeon Flux, Clash of the Titans, Ride Along and Ride Along 2. It looks like they write pretty much the same things together. So that's interesting in and of itself. The writing didn't really stand much of a chance if that's the caliber. That's not me trying to sound shitty, but like I would not have expected Ride Along to be, a deep, thought-provoking movie either. So yeah, if I'd seen that, I would have thought more. I would have been more prepared for this, I think, or for where this actually sits. So how would we improve it? Well, you've gone with the 80s theme. I'm thinking, well, I mean, to be fair, your idea sounds brilliant. But if we were sticking it in 2013, keeping it as it is, like in the time frame that it was made, because that's when it got funded. First of all, I would have the visual effects. I would still go with at least a lot more practical. I would definitely make the city more interesting. I'm so bored of this generic city look. It needed to be darker as well, because... And the other thing as well is when these people pop, apparently humans can see their popped form. How comes we don't have as much of that? Like, why are people not aware of that? Like, you would see more popped people. So they needed to have an explanation as to, well, these were the things that people kind of saw, like the Sasquatch and that sort of thing, maybe.
Did you not find it really weird as well that the other deados see them as their avatars?
Yeah, because they
see them as James Hong and Marissa Miller.
Yeah, I found that weird.
weird.
It's like, oh, you look hot to Jeff Bridges. It's like, well, hang on, should you not see them as the R.I.P.D?
Yeah,
otherwise
but then later on, when Kevin Bacon's talking to them, it's almost like he can see them as normal.
Well, no, because he doesn't recognise Ryan Reynolds, does he? He sees him as the Chinese guy.
Yeah, but then when they're talking in the car, then again, maybe he should. Yeah, to be fair, I guess he's just still calling him whether Ryan Reynolds' character name was Mikey or something.
Yeah, this is the thing that I don't remember their character names.
No,
they said all the time, I don't remember them because they're so bland. They're forgettable characters. That Jeff Bridges is the best character in it in terms of being at least defined more.
Yeah.
And even I wouldn't write home about and go, oh, you got to see Jeff Bridges in this film.
No. I think this is definitely a film that has not benefited from a second take.
No, it definitely hasn't. I would have rewritten the whole thing because it needs more pathos.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter even if you keep it as like, a brainless action film. It needs more visual style. It needs better effects, practical for the most part. Add CGI in, sure, that's a modern movie thing. But it's got to be stylized.
Yeah.
And the other thing, certainly with the budget they had, because even for its time, it looked awful. And you know what this would have worked well as? An anime or a CGI movie.
Yeah.
Because that way you could have stylized the whole thing in its era, keep it in CGI, but it wouldn't have looked so bad for having CGI action scenes because it has to. It's a CGI movie.
Yeah.
So they could have gone that route. Obviously, anime would have probably made it more Japanese, but it's based on a comic. Make it look like a comic.
Yeah.
Do something. Like Sin City didn't make itself look realistic. It went hard on the comic angle, and it sold. 300 did the same thing. I didn't watch 300 because it didn't look like my sort of jam. But it stuck hard to a comic look, and it sold gangbusters.
Yeah.
And then this comes along. This is based on a comic book. Let's make it look boring as shit. Well done. Did it sell? Hell no. I don't know. I don't understand who this was for. I'm going to be honest. I don't know who the audience was for this.
They were trying to get the Men in Black audience.
But that wasn't there in 2013. That was 20 years late. Like, Men in Black was 97.
Yeah, but then you'd had Men in Black 3 not long before this.
Yeah, but that didn't sell gangbusters.
No, exactly. So they were going, okay, well, we want something like Men in Black, but not quite Men in Black.
Right.
I know, let's just change it to Ghosts.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what else to say about this.
I don't think there is anything more to say about this. I think we're quite happy to be consigning this one to the dustbin of history.
Yep.
Never to be seen again.
I would like to say though, I would be fascinated to see a remake of this by the right director with the right writing staff.
Yeah.
Because I think there is a huge well to be driven out of this concept that this film absolutely squandered. So as potential remake material, I would be happy to see someone give it a whirl.
Yeah.
But not in this state.
No.
And I think because of the success that this had, i.e. none, it probably will never happen.
Yeah.
But I mean,
they get a sequel happen for some weird reason.
With nobody in it.
Yeah, Jeffrey Donovan's in it from Burn Notice. That's the only.
I don't know who that is. But okay, no, fair enough. But yeah, this basically they tried this. The only reason this would have sold is the star power in it.
Yeah. And
then you make a sequel without the star power.
Well, because by that point, Ryan Reynolds was actually famous, and
but then get someone get someone actually famous.
I think we've said all we need to say, so I think it's time to say goodbye to R.I.P.D. and come back next week when we give another movie a second take.